Now, as you know, today is World Electric Vehicle Day. With the massive jump in oil prices over recent months and the steep increases in fuel prices here in South Africa over the last year, many people are opting for either hybrid or fully electric cars. But the pricing and practicality of owning an electric car is still a bit of a concern. My colleague Gareth Edwards is spending the morning in a full electric vehicle to better understand if they really are the future of motoring. And he joins me yet again. Gareth, I don't know if you've reached Kyalami or past Kyalami already, but you know, I was quite pleased that in the last segment you put to rest the whole perception of an electric car possibly looking like a spaceship inside, because that can be very intimidating for someone who's not all that tech savvy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've nailed it on the head. Fondo, welcome back, everyone. Yeah, I've made my way towards the Kyalami side, so taking one of the side roads, because what we're looking at on the map here, I'm going to speak to the MD of Volvo in a second, is very cleverly, in these cars, all connected via Wi-Fi, this is the Volvo XC40, so this is all standard. If I need to charge the car, which I will need to soon, I've only got 40%, I'll need to find a charging station. There it is at the bottom right-hand side there. So this GPS here in the center is telling me where to go. So yes, it's not too techy. If you know how to use a tablet, you'll be fine. But let's bring in the Volvo MD of South Africa, Greg Maruszewski, joining us via Zoom all the way in Sweden. Hello to you, Greg. Morning. Thanks for your time. Let me close the sunroof here. Let's just talk a bit about Volvo moving into this segment. Why has Volvo made the choice? Greg, morning. Hope you can hear me.
Hi, good morning. I can. Well, I think from a technology point of view, the electrification of cars is something that's the future, and Volvo has been quite clear from a few years ago that by 2030 we will have only electric cars. So this is just a natural progression to bring the cars to South Africa.
And when we start looking at this sort of this entry point, the access point for electric cars, because here's the problem as well, they're still quite expensive. I understand this one is just short of 1.1 million, and considering the tech you get, it's still very impressive. But how do you market a car of this value to people who aren't too sure about electric cars yet?
Well, I think always the Volvo has been in the premium segment. So within the premium segment, I think the car is priced quite competitively. And with the technology and being introduced and the prices coming down, I think the electric technology will go into the mass market as well, sooner rather than later. But within the premium segment, I think the car is competitive, given the technology that you see there.
And I'm not sure if you heard him, Fondo, talking to me a moment ago, just before we began our conversation. What I love about this XC40 is I got in, and it feels like a normal car as well. We haven't gone for a spaceship-looking Boeing 747 with buttons everywhere. This is a normal car, just without an engine as well. So who is the market for your XC40s? Because it's like a mini SUV, I think, but anybody can jump into this car and drive it. So I suppose you're trying to keep it as simple and as well known as most cars, most Volvos.
Well, yes. So as you mentioned, the car is like any other car. The only difference is that it's got an electric motor as opposed to a fuel engine. And in terms of marketing in South Africa, probably now it's more the pioneers of the who want to drive the electric cars. In Europe, I think it's a little bit different. We're going for the more environmental conscious people. But I think in South Africa, it's still a novelty, and it's the people who want to experience it. And I think from a driver point of view, as you have experienced, it's a totally different drive.
Yeah, it really is. I spoke about this earlier. You've got to forget the fact that you don't hear an engine revving, you don't hear gears changing, all of that as well. What's the future of EVs in our country, though? We're talking 10, 15 years away, because we know that the European markets in about 15, 20 years, Greg, are all going to be moving towards EVs. What's your timeline, do you think, before this becomes the norm, not the exception in South Africa?
I think overall it will take a good few years, 10, 15 years at least. But I think in the premium segment, that's going to happen a lot quicker. So we see the move already from diesel into petrol, and from petrol into hybrid or full electric. I think the hybrid option is probably the best option for South Africa right now for the next couple of years. But within 5 or 10 years' time, I think the premium market will be mostly electric.
And I need to say goodbye to you in a moment, Greg. We're heading off to 7 o'clock headlines. Before I do that, though, this is one of the test models that I've had for a few days. If someone wants to start looking at getting a Volvo in a couple of years' time, what's the timetable for bringing more of these cars into South Africa?
So for Volvo, all the new models which will be launched from now on will all be just electric cars. And then within a few months of the global launches, we will be bringing them to South Africa. So we have a new launch coming up towards the end of this year. And then after that, there will be 1 or 2 new cars introduced every year for the next 3 or 4 years.
All right, so the demand is there. The supply looks like it's going to be there as well. Greg, I appreciate your time all the way from Sweden. Volvo South Africa MD Greg Maraszewski joining us. We're going to be finding a charging station in a moment in Mfondo. I'm going to find one that's on the map that's about 3 minutes away. So I should make 7 o'clock as I try and plug this car in. I'm sure I'll get it right, of course, but it is me. I might get it wrong. But I'm going to go find a charging station. Right, so I'm going to be stranded on the side of the road. Not because of me, but not because of the car, but because it's a Gareth error. But I'm going to go and find a charging station. So we're back to you in a couple of moments. Boy, that's bright. As we continue our drive around Kyalami. I'm going to go find a charging station. I'll be back with you in a few minutes. Live.